And welcome back to another video with SirLucien on the SirLucien Gaming channel. And today, as you can see, we're going to talk a little bit about Strongholds and Followers, done by Matt Colville. And the PDF was just released to the backers, so a lot of us just got emails to say that we could download the completed PDF, though there may be some corrections here or there as we move forward. And the printing is going to be happening probably in the first part of next year, but we'll see when that actually happens, which I can't wait because I really do want the printed version. This book looks fabulous. So I just wanted to go through. I didn't want to do a huge, long overview of it or review of the book quite yet. I've been reading through it and I've really been enjoying everything I've been seeing. It's created a lot of inspiration for what I want to do in my campaigns that I'm running, and it really has me thinking about all the different ways that I could use either all of this book or parts of this book or pieces of this book. And if you don't have it yet and you're thinking about getting it, well, hopefully this video can help you decide the type of stuff that's in it and if it's going to be right for you and your campaign and players. So let's take a look at this. So as you can see, the artwork I really like as one of the first things that we're seeing here is this kind of old school, I don't want to say it's like a colored pencil look. It's a muted colors. It has very tamped down color palettes that I've seen so far, but it evokes this really 80s and 90s feel of fantastic art, which I really like. And it puts in almost like the imagination from the artist, and all the artists that he must have gathered together for this have done a fantastic job on this book. So let's go through a little bit here. I just want to show you, this is the front cover of the PDF. I believe it's going to be the front cover on the hardcover book, but we'll have to see. When I get the book in, I will also do a review of the actual printed book when we do it, but this is just the PDF. So we eventually get moving over to our next one, which I really like here, a nice, strong, kind of evocative picture of, yeah, you get keeps, but what are keeps for? And keeps, there's battles. Battles happen around keeps and for keeps and over keeps and all this kind of stuff. And we have this magnificent warrior who is leading the charge or holding the breach or doing something like that. So the artwork is great. And you can see already in the two pieces that we've just looked at, there's a real theme going on with the artwork. And there's not a lot of jarring differences that I've seen. So they've kept kind of the same genre, or I guess it would be the palette is kind of similar. So it keeps you in the vein of the whole thing as a whole. It doesn't make you feel like you're looking at different pieces or parts. So we get into, this is just the first part where it talks about the writers and the adventure that's in here and editing and all of the people that go into creating this book. This is definitely a page you want to look through. You'll see a lot of names that you recognize from Matt talking about his friends who are helping him with this, or people that have been, if you've kind of kept up during the Kickstarter campaign, all the different updates and stuff, you've heard about a lot of these people that have been doing a lot of stuff, like Lars and Anna and just all kinds of people. Graphic design by Thomas and Mary, layout by Thomas, cover illustration. Conceptopolis is the one that's been, I hope I've been saying that right, has been helping with the art, and they do such fantastic work. Jetpack 7, I believe, is affiliated with them, or they're a part of that, or it's like a division of them somehow. But it's really good, and I've always enjoyed those style of art that they get from that. And there's a lot in there, so definitely read through and check out the names and get to know some of these artists and writers and layout and designers and all of this. We also get a nice thing I'll let you go through and read. There's a foreword in here that I really recommend that lets you in the mindset of Matt and kind of making this book, which is cool. And then we get to the table of contents, the big piece, right? This is what's going to tell you, is this book going to be used for me? So we have a nice introduction, whether it's GM approved, and a little bit talking about alignment. And I think it's really strong how Matt already kind of calls out this idea that, hey, this could be a lot of work for your GM. So you want to make sure that they're okay with it, they're on board with it, and what parts and pieces they want to use of this if they're going to use it. And it also starts to talk a little bit about in that area, like these things ramp up the power of the players. It gives them a little bit more than your average fighter or barbarian or wizard or whatever, because of all the things that can happen in this book. And the GM has to be prepared to say, okay, we're going to give you a little bit more challenge. So, be ready to amplify some of the things that they're going to be encountering or doing, and kind of balancing out a little bit of what they're getting in return for this really cool mechanical effect for these keeps or towers or whatever it might be that they're going to use, the followers and so forth. The other really cool thing is, though, it's not just about mechanics. Matt definitely put in a lot about the narrative and how these things, even if they didn't have a mechanical advantage, even if there was no reason that, the keep didn't give you anything, the way he describes having a keep and what a keep does and where and why somebody would get one and what would happen when you did have one, all drives narrative direction and can help you drive that in your campaign, or allow your characters to experience that type of arc and that type of storyline and that type of idea of owning something, putting roots down, and then what happens with all the different people around and how that they are treated after that, whether they have rivals or they have allies or they have people that are neutral to them. All of those kinds of things can drive the narrative of the campaign forward and add more depth to it, and gives them the feel of a living world that they're participating in, which I thought was great, even on top of the mechanical advantages if you use those in your game. So it's a really good section to read through, and what you will find right away reading through it is the style that Matt is presenting in this book, and it's a very playful style. It's a very playful writing style. It engages you. I almost feel a little bit like thinking like Deadpool, because he'll break the fourth wall. He's talking to you. He's talking to the player. He's talking to the GM. There's a smiley face in one of the paragraphs that I thought was funny. So it's a really kind of, I want to say camaraderie, or he's in it with you. He's there helping you, and he's speaking to you in actual talking language. The book is written as if he's talking to you, and you can imagine his voice behind the lines. It's almost like a running dialogue of Matt explaining this, versus a stereo guide on how to do something, or a set of a rigorous manual of ways to do things. So I really found it to be an enjoyable book to read, and it gives plenty of inspiration as you go through here. In just reading it, if you use nothing from it, it would give you inspiration on how to do something different in your campaign, or a new idea about druids starting a druid grove, or why something would be a bandit camp, and what would happen with a pirate ship, and all this kind of stuff that's kind of cool. It's kind of in this book, and it generates that kind of emotion when you're reading it. So the next part that we see here in the red, we have the stronghold area, and it really talks about the different types of strongholds. It gives you a good setup for why a character might have a stronghold, what happens when you combine certain pieces together into castles, those type of thing, where players want to bring them together. He talks about making sure that as a player, you're checking in with your group, that it's not just something that you want to do, but they're all about it. You may find at your table that there's a couple people that are interested, but you also may find that there's a couple people that don't really care. And so you want to be careful about pushing, your own agenda, your own narrative on everybody else. You want them to be included. You want them to everybody to collaborate in the story. You don't want to just force one kind of branch of this story down anyone else's throat, I guess, is where we would go with that. So things like the keep, the tower, the temple, and the establishment, and then what those might look like depending on what type of character has that, and then what are the benefits, what are the costs, how long do these things take. Plenty of artwork to show us ideas on what something might look like. I mean, this one right here, this church with the horse in the foreground, I just love it. It just evokes like there's a story here. There's something going on, and I could see this being one of the players, a clerics, this is their house, this is their church, this is their temple, this is their place that roots them in this world, and a lot can derive from that. They still can go on adventures and they still can do all those kinds of cool things in your campaign, but they also have this in there that can affect things of what's going on. Emissaries coming, other cults or religions coming in, the people coming in, the refugees or people that are needing help. This can be a real focal point to help drive things within the campaign. And just from a picture, just from looking at that, you can get a lot of this. So as we go through, it talks, like I said, about here, GM approved, another picture just to evoke. So right in the beginning, we get a lot of artwork to evoke what are we going to do with this book? What is this book helping us do? And each of these pieces of art tell a story, and they can tell lots of stories. They can tell the story of the keep you want to take over. They can tell the story of the keep as the campaign has ended. They can tell, all these kinds of things just by looking at this. So as we go through, and I'm going to skip through a lot of it, you definitely, if you're a backer, you already can get the PDF, or if you can still even buy it right now by going to their website, which I'll put in the description below. And if you haven't gotten this yet, this will at least help you make a decision. So here's the construction costs and size and toughness and cost of the upgrade and how long it takes to build, those kinds of things. And then we get a really good description for quite a ways about the ways you might acquire something like this, whether it's building new, getting one and renovating it, or being given one by, say, a local noble or a king or somebody you saved in the campaign, that type of thing. So you go through, and then we start talking about the keep. And then when you get a keep, you start to raise units, and units come to you. And it's like this idea that because you've raised this keep, let's say, in this land, you've restored it, and now the world around you has taken notice of you because you've done something dramatic. You've done something just out in the open. You've done something that establishes who you are. And now others will come and have to interact with you. Some are going to be rivals. Some are going to be allies. Some are going to be people who are seeking to let you lead them. Whether they're the followers or these units of archers or cavalry or infantry that may come along and say, well, this person, they've got it put together. Where I worked last time or before, what didn't work out, it was really bad. But this place looks like it's, like it means something and it's doing something and they know what they're doing. And I can live here and I can survive and I have a job and something to do. So these things that can be attracted by having these kinds of things. And that adds into some more gameplay and stuff too. So you can get units and things based on your class that come to your keeps or your establishments or your towers and such. We get a lot of little maps to give us some ideas of what they might look like. So you might start out with something that's small. Eventually you get into something that's a little bit larger. And it even talks about the pirate ship. This is one of the Kickstarter backer goals that we got by just smashing through all the stretch goals. So we got the pirate ship part. So we can see some of the art there and how that's going to work too. And then we jump into what a tower might be like, and like where a tower is meant to be researching magic and spells and creating magic. This is something that a lot of your players might be interested in doing. So it's not necessarily the same thing as a keep, but it's a little bit different. Then you have the example here again of towers and the artwork. Creating those different things with maps, and then the temple. So for those of you that are more divine and how that might interact or affect the gameplay. And then we move into the establishment, which is like having a inn, or the one I really like that because everybody always thinks, oh, I'm going to have establishment. So all adventurers, they really want to have an inn. But the one picture in here that really drew me in and kind of blew my mind out to say, wait a minute, there's a lot of things you can do. You could own a theater. Now, I thought that was a really cool idea in a big town of like Waterdeep or any of these other places, if you're doing a homebrew, that it's not just about an establishment of the tavern, the stereotypical tavern. It could be something else. It could be these other types of buildings that exist in towns. You could own a blacksmith. You could own a mill. You could own, like we see here, a theater. You could own, all these different things where people come. A whole market square could just be something you own and you run and you make sure it works. And the reason you do it is because it helps you get information, and information is power when you start to play on the higher level of the game. And it's not just about the low level and what's going on, but you get into that political intrigue, and then knowledge is power. So I really like that. And it talks about the strongholds by class, who rolls, having barbarian camps, how that might work. And it's more of like a mobile kind of stronghold. What kinds of followers you get if you're a bard. Look at this artwork here. I love this cathedral, this church. This could be something that the players rally around. One of their members is a high-ranking order. This is where they are, and lots of things can generate. And this could be great places for story threads to pick up. When you're ready to move one arc to another, you have this place in the world that they have an attachment to that can help you drive that narrative forward. So I really like this. I mean, the artwork is just so good. The other thing that's really interesting about this whole thing is that I love that it's written like a medieval manuscript. It has not a full-on white paper, but it's got like a background to the paper, which I hope comes through in the printing, and has like that almost manuscript feel of a rough paper look to it. And then it's got the borders that you would see on manuscripts and medieval scrolls and things like that. So it has a lot of that really cool stuff all around it. So I can't wait to see this in print too. So cleric followers, and then we get some more, and it's just like you get some rules, you get some Matt talking to you about how this could work, and then you get hit by another piece of art that just evokes some type of story in you, or something about, oh, I could do something like this in my campaign. And we keep going, and just this is the kind of the quintessential picture that we've been seeing in a lot of the advertisements for strongholds and followers and fighter followers. And then here's that one we just saw again, the monk, the paladin, and all these classes. I like this wood lodge with the giant, like deer or elk or whatever it might be in your world. Ranger, having a bar, a tavern, or maybe like a wood lodge, something like that. Rogue. Oh, I thought this was really neat, evocative picture that we got to see here. And so we just go through your warlock. And this is just so good. And so there's a lot of stuff here, a dragon fighting on a tower and a wizard. And so we get through most of this, and it talks about the special abilities you get and the units you get. And then we finally get to the part of the book that's the followers. And the followers are really about, as your players begin to become people in this world, become figures of power in this world. People bring their problems to you, hoping you'll solve them for them. They're expecting you to protect the town and the village. They're expecting you to go out and deal with whatever scariness is in the darkness out there that's coming at them, whether it's a monster of some type, a rampaging army or horde, or even, a whole nother just, rivals, just another country or another political entity. And they come to you because you have the power. They see how powerful you are. They see the money you're throwing around. They see the weapons you carry and the things that you do. So it's just natural that followers will start to flock to you to kind of join your banner, join your cause, join you in what you do. And so we have a whole section in rules about how followers can work. And you can take pieces and parts of this book and use it in campaign. My idea, I'm hoping, is that my very next campaign, I want to use every single piece. I want to run this all in just to see how it works, just to see where the players take it, see where we can go from 1 to 20 with this, and just see what kind of awesome story that it could develop for us. So we can see it talks about their ancestry and their abilities and their NPCs and what they might get and the types of retainers you might attract depending on your class. If you're a barbarian, it might be different than if you're a paladin or if you're a wizard or a warlock. So you get these different ones. And there are a lot of rules in here to help you create your own, or at least modify the ones that exist to make it fit the narrative that you're in. This is definitely a 5e narrative book. It's meant for the 5e 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't be used in some other systems too, obviously with some tweaking from you as the GM or the Dungeon Master. So we scroll through here and we see a lot of these things that can all be dropped in. These can all add some flavor to your campaign, add that sense of life and other things that are going on, give you as the Dungeon Master some avenues to interact with the players, which we always need at times to be able to introduce new problems or provide information or use as a plot hook of some sort, a side kind of quest, as you might say, those kinds of things. And I think there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. Artisans and people that are going to help you with stuff. I like this example of Captain Horblack, which is really cool, really nice painting of the 14th century plate armor here in that transition. Really good stuff. The Carpenter, and we just keep going. So we see so much of this, which is really good. So we'll scroll through. I really like this picture too, because it really evokes a Game of Thrones idea for me. I mean, that character is just we've seen that character before. We've seen that actor. But it's really good. So the artwork really ties it in. And then we get to the adventure that's included with the book. So the Siege of Castle Rend, and I believe in the very beginning this was done by James Inasco, if I've said his name right. It's at the beginning of the book. You can take a look at it at the beginning of the PDF, and it talks about what the adventure is and what's going on. We'll probably skip through it a little bit because we don't want to show you too much about it for those that might actually get to play it. So we'll kind of skip through, but there's a whole adventure in here for you that talks about Castle Rend, and the idea is probably at the end of it, there's a castle there now that is up for grabs, or the players may decide to renovate, and then that leads you into the rest of this book. And then we get, there's also in this, it allows you to see the battle and the way that battling can work between armies and units when you still have your player characters. Because Dungeons & Dragons is very much my character and my party go out and do things. We don't have a lot of games where it's I'm the leader of an army and we're a group of people that are running and leading armies and units. But in this book, we have rules that can help us try to do some of those things and bring in big battles, big epic moments into our campaigns in which we may not have done before. So we get through this and we'll kind of skip through all of these things so we don't go over too much of it. And then we get into the appendices, and the appendices is another area where probably the reason the book took this long to finish up and to get the PDF done was the amount of stuff they added to the appendices. So we're seeing things like new monsters. We're seeing things like new entities and new celestials and exemplars and things like that can be called down briefly to help in a battle or be a part of a servant or something like that. And you can see these different things in here, and there are just so many of them, especially with coming from the divine area, how these things can fit, and with Matt explaining how you can fit them into your narrative, backed up by artwork and stats for you to use in your 5th edition campaign. So we keep going and we see so many cool new things. And I mean, there is a lot of interesting stuff here, especially for Fae and Celestial and dragons and all kinds of stuff. So even if you got the book just for this, it's worth the price for the appendices alone, let alone the rules that you're getting for all of the other stuff as we kind of scroll through here. That is just fantastic. I mean, how can you not like that? So as we scroll through, we get into more of the dragons. These were the things that were also part of the Kickstarter. You can get the actual miniatures and figures with this, so that's pretty cool. And then we get into just a few more of these really just fantastic pictures. And we get a story here towards the end, which is great. And I love this. And Matt is a writer, obviously, many of you may know that. If you don't know that, he's actually written novels that have been fantastic. He's still writing novels in between the other stuff that he's doing, and just be able to have a nice little short story wrapped in there is cool. I'm assuming he did that short story. He has had some other writers help him out, so it could be that they wrote that, but it's cool that it's been included into the PDF as we see here. All these types of dragons that he wanted to add in that you could use, these gem style dragons, which I think is really cool. And then we scroll, look at all these. I mean, we're still going. We're like on page 232 at this point, and we're still getting lots of new stuff to use. And then we get to the warfare rules. So the warfare rules, which is another book he wants to expand on, but this is like a beginning set of those rules, or a simplified set of the warfare rules that you can use for now. And eventually there's going to be another book that he's talked about that he wants to do a Kickstarter for, that would be an expanded set of rules for running battles in your Dungeons and Dragons games, which I think is really cool. So you can go through and you can see quite a few things. And it really has to do with creating these units on these little cards and creating a simple battle system that they can interact with each other, and how you would do that, how you would build those units, how you would recruit those units, how you would acquire them, and then what happens when they fight, and that type of thing. So we get those through, and then we even get another simple, even more simple, so that you can really decide what's the level of warfare you want in your campaign, and what's the level of number crunch and rules you want to use as a dungeon master to introduce this whole concept. So then we're not even done. At that point, we're on page 244, and we jump into new items. He puts in codices and new magic items that you can use, or your players can acquire, and things to add in with special abilities and special things that they can do. So it's just amazing to me the amount of things on offer and things being given to you in this book. There is plenty for any dungeon master to grab out of here and use and add to their campaign. I mean, we got everything from new rules. We've got things for new monsters, new items. We've got, lots of artwork to invoke imagination, lots of backup stories and information on how we can fit it into our campaign as we go through here. And there's just so much good stuff. And we finally get to the end, 264 pages of PDF, and we're at the back of the book at that point. Well, I don't know what the back cover will look like on the printed. We'll have to see that when we do it. But the interesting thing about that whole thing is Strongholds and Followers. As a backer, you should have gotten an email for your PDF already. You can purchase this right now if this is the first time you're hearing it. There are other videos. You can definitely go to Matt Colville's YouTube channel and find all kinds of videos about this whole process, where he talked about it from the very beginning, when the Kickstarter kicked off, and the things he wanted to do with it. You can see videos about during the Kickstarter. You'll see videos about after the Kickstarter, and you can go to their Discord and you can see even more information and get into that community. So there's a big community built around everybody was part of the Kickstarter and kind of helping support Matt and his team, MCDM, get this book out to us. And this PDF right now is worth the price already. I can't wait to see my printed book. I think Matt Colville and his team has done a fantastic job, and this is a book that you should have on your shelf. In fact, pretty soon when it comes in, it's going to be on the shelf behind me for sure. And I'm already starting to plan out my very next campaign that I'm starting out in January. That's going to be run basically by this book. I mean, this book has given me all the inspiration I need for it, and everything's going to come from it, and we're going to use all the different things in there that we can possibly use. And so it's going to be really fun, and we'll put it up on either we'll stream it or we'll put it on YouTube so that you can kind of watch along as we play. So this probably went a little bit longer than I thought it should. I was going to try to do a quick one, but you know me, I never can do a quick video. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you go out and get the Strongholds and Followers. I hope you support the MCDM crew and Matt Colville's channel. And I hope to see you in another video here on SirLucien's gaming channel. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, come visit us on Twitch, and you can see a bunch of shows that we're putting up there also. So hope to see you soon. Thanks for coming. Bye.